I'm John Storlie. I have been managing a web page for Giants of the Earth and also the Facebook page. And if you haven't gone to either of those sites, I encourage you to go there and possibly hit like, because it tells all your friends that you like this site. So if you have 20, 50 friends on Facebook, then you might go check it out. So it can really make our popularity grow. And we have grown a lot on Facebook. We've gotten about 22,000 visits in the last month. And on the website, we've gotten about 20,000 visits in the last year. I'm excited about this because I think that all of you who have supported us and everyone who's worked so hard deserves to be spotlighted nationally. I think we can be an example to other people of what it means to cherish one's heritage and try to pass it down. In 1964, Pastor Rolf Storlie wrote a book called Storlies in America. It was it was a little red book. It was about this big. And I have enjoyed having that as a resource. When Patty and I were married, we went to Norway. We visited many of these people who were descended from the common Storlie ancestors. And it was just a lot of fun. And a lot of them had this book. And I just think it'd be so fun to be able to give to other people growing up in this community that same kind of identity. About 10 years ago, Rolf asked me if I would update the book, and I said very naively that I would, not realizing the exponential growth of Storlies and so once I started working on this, I started to get 5,000-10,000 people in this tree. And I started coming across all of these resources and all these people, and they pointed me to Georgia. And I realized, wow, she's got 38,000 people in her tree. A large number of those people would be the same. If you go back 10 generations, you have 1,024 great-grandparents. And that's just in that 10th generation. And so when you really...
Although it depends on how much interbreeding.
Right. In our case, it's probably more like 200. That's how we keep the money in the family. We have some recipes in the family. I want to be able to give this to all of the kids growing up in Spring Grove, and I think, like what Pastor Liptak was saying, it's part of their identity. And everyone needs to find balance. And part of that balance is looking at other family members who inspire you and some that humble you, and finding that you have this biological nature with which to wrestle. It gets really complicated when you start getting 40,000, 50,000 people in your tree. And we haven't filled in the tree completely. And it's especially complicated for we who are of Norwegian American ancestry, because the males a lot of times will change their last name. They'll be Storlie, and then all of a sudden they'll be Knudsen when they come to America. Or just as complicated, they'll be Tone because they were born on the mountain of Tone, and then they'll marry somebody who's on the mountain of Storlie or the hill of Storlie, and then they'll take that last name. So they might have several last names over the course of their life, and it makes genealogy complicated. In the case of Norwegians, you don't always inherit a last name from your parents, but you do always inherit bits of information called genes. And fortunately now technology allows us to find out how any two people might be related, based upon the simple fact that if you share half your genes with somebody, you're going to either be their mother, their father, their child, or their siblings. And then depending on how that is arranged and how it's shared, you can determine that. The genetic test that we have, there are 3 parts to this that we're using for ancestry. One of them is called Relative Finder, using this technology that says you share 1/8 of your genome with this person, or 1/16 or 1/100th even. It can tell you this is your 4th cousin, or this is your 5th cousin, out to 10th cousin. And so we're using these kits to see how any 2 people are related. And that one part of this is called Relative Finder. Another part of this analysis is called Ancestry Finder. It'll take your nucleotides and it'll color code them. This is Irish, this is German, this is Norwegian. And so you can find out if you're a little bit of a mixture, or if you're descended from Vikings who kind of got around, brought back some of the prized possessions of Europe. Then you might have a little Irish, or you might have a little Scotch in you, and those will be color coded. And so that's kind of exciting. So it has a lot of promise, and there are not very many people who are able to really take advantage of this right now. I think in the future it's going to really take off. But I think we're in a unique opportunity. We have a willing community of people who are relatively closely related, and they're excited about this, and I think we can kind of lead the way with this in the future. So we're hoping to get the people who have done the genetic genealogy in here, and we can kind of triangulate and see how they're all related. And hopefully we'll send off a kid to the royalty of Norway and we'll see if we're maybe related to them and get them to come and visit their cousins in America. So I'm pretty excited about that. And Georgia might talk a little bit more when she gets up about the genealogy on Wednesdays.